March 11th, 2019, regular business meeting of the Waynesboro City Council. Mr. Henderson, would you do some Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd remind those in attendance this evening, if you'd like to speak, there's a sign-up sheet in the back. We'd love for you to complete that in advance of the comment period. First business item on the agenda is a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 3 is matters from council members. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share this evening? I'll share a few things. We got a really awesome, neat opportunity. I was able to go over to UVA, the Center for Politics, the Tuesday after our last meeting, and represent the city in front of over 50 delegates from all over the world came to learn about local government and how democracy sort of operates in the United States. So really a really neat event. Vice Mayor and I, we met with Congressman Ben Klein and provided an update to him about it was a very enjoyable conversation and discussion with the Congressman. Appreciated his time. Dr. Hofstetter and I, we attended the Valley Votech Center with the Community Foundation. They had held an event, a ribbon cutting, really neat regional facility. We're very fortunate to have, and then subsequent to that, attended the Governor's School 25th anniversary open house, and that was enjoyable and appreciated their invitation for that. The Vice Mayor and I also attended and toured the Valley Children's Advocacy Center in Stanton and learned about the services, the much needed and impressive services that they provide our community for those children in desperate need of services. And then I had a very enjoyable, awesome afternoon with Deborah Freeman Bell over at the Warm Shelter, and just an awesome, great afternoon of conversation about homelessness and the amazing work that they accomplish over at that facility on Friday too. So, all right. Number 4 is to consider adopting a resolution initiating an amendment to the zoning code of the City of Waynesboro, Chapter 98, Section 15-2-2286A7, to allow electronic changeable message copy signs in residential districts as accessories to publicly owned government facilities. Mr. Ham.
So yes, sir, Mayor Short and members of council. Yes, sir, Mayor Short, members of council. To be clear, your work this evening, consideration of this resolution, if adopted, does not change the code and does not grant any authorization or permission for exception to the code as it is presently written. Rather, as the title suggests, it simply initiates the process for amending the zoning code for the City of Waynesboro and establishes the council as the applicant in that process. The sought amendment would allow electronic changeable copy signs in residential districts. Presently, those signs are prohibited as accessories to publicly owned governmental facilities. And again, this harkens back to some work by a previous council whereby in a series of unrelated text amendments, this particular clarification was approved prohibiting these electronic changeable copy signs in residential sections. And this is my understanding that the council wishes to revisit that decision and that policy, and this resolution would direct the staff to start the process to facilitate that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I have some discussion.
Okay.
When did this come about? Because as I read the amended agenda for today is the first time that I knew this was going to be on the agenda for tonight. Have y'all been having conversations about this, and do we not have conversations with everybody that sits on city council?
Well, I mean, there has been some discussion with respective to ongoing, dating back to 2015, specifically with the library board, with the Friends of the Library, and a changeable message sign. And we've certainly had, I mean, that's the reason why we're having the conversation and the discussion to offer the amendment up for consideration this evening.
So have you talked to everybody else on city council about this, though?
I had some, yes,
Except
I have.
me? Okay. Next thing I wanted to know, why would we be changing the ordinance for something that we presented, made a change in law, and now we say it's good for everybody else in the community, but we're going to be exempt from it? I mean, it sounds like something that you see happening in Richmond or over in Washington, where the government comes in, they're going to tell you how to live, but then when it comes to them, they say, oh, no, it doesn't affect, I don't have to live by that. And the way this is worded, that's what we're doing here to the citizens of Waynesboro.
Yeah. Well, I recall the conversation from when it was brought forward in 2016. I think Ms. Anderson and I were very clear that it was our desire to bring forward the conversation to more deeply explore the suitableness of having a communicative sign that would benefit the community, so that folks know what's not only going on at the library, but going on within city government. There's people are not picking up the newspaper as often as I think we would like. And so finding a way that is consistent with a residential district, making a sort of inroad with respect to it being a government-owned facility, which is really adjacent, rather immediately adjacent to another non-conforming residential use, such as the YMCA, certainly seems appropriate and part of that conversation. So,
Anybody on council talk to the residents in the 500 and 600 block of Wayne Avenue?
well, as I understand it, the discussion this evening is to consider a long-standing conversation that's happened with the library board for several years, only for them to be then presented with an opposing viewpoint that ran contrary to 2 years of conversation and 2 years of fundraising and 2 years of investment. So, again, we're not amending the ordinance this evening. Rather, we're introducing a resolution to direct staff to develop the ordinance, at which point there would be a public comment period in which we would advertise it and seek public comment and public feedback at that time. So this merely just invokes council's interest to proceed and bring forward the conversation.
Well, I don't particularly appreciate, and I don't think other council members would appreciate coming in here for a meeting tonight and not being made aware and abreast of what's going on.
Okay. Well, it was my understanding that you had a conversation with Vice Mayor Henderson, but I'll certainly do a better job of doing that in the future, so I appreciate you letting me know.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. We have 3 yeas and 2 noes. All right, thank you. All right, next is to consider approving an application from the Parks and Recreation Department to partially close the alley adjacent to the Rosenwald Community Center from Dogwood Street to the edge of the parking area on Saturday, May 11, 2019, from 12:30 p.m. until 4 p.m. in association with the Rosenwald Community Block Party. Mr. Ham.
Mayor Short and members of council, I'm going to, so I'm going to send out a map that clarifies a little bit further the proposition or the ask here. It's a simple, relatively simple request. This alley is interior to city-owned property, and this is the block party. It's a popular event. I think they've had it for several years ongoing, and I send down the additional map to clarify a point. I think one of the original iterations of the agenda referenced Short Street, which is was a little confusing to me. Actually, what we're doing is closing the alley, or what we would ask permission to do is close the alley from Dogwood Street to sort of the interior northern boundary of the parking lot of Parks and Recreation. Short Street is actually an undeveloped sort of drive-looking passage between the alley and Port Republic Road. I've highlighted it in orange. And I apologize for the confusion there, but what we want to do is close the alley just from the north there, which is Dogwood Street, back to the interior of the parking lot. And again, this is a neighborhood block party. There'll be municipal agencies supporting the event. Obviously, Parks and Recreation is supporting the event, but I was thrown by that piece and wanted to take a moment to make sure that we all understood what we were asking here.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the requested alley closure in association?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Number 6 is to consider introducing an ordinance amending the city code, chapter 54, article 2, sections 26 and 27, composition, election of members, and terms of members of the Recreation Commission. Mr. Hamp.
Yes, sir. Presently, the composition of the Parks and Recreation Commission consists of 4 individuals who represent the 4 voting wards in the city, 2 at-large individuals, and then a member of the city council who's appointed to serve on the commission. Because there has been some persistent challenge in attracting individuals through the ward designation to serve on the commission, and then subsequently achieve a quorum for the commission meetings, it's recommended that council move away from the ward designation to a model by which 6 individuals would be appointed at large, and then we would retain the 1 member of city council appointed to the commission as well. And I'm advised by the clerk of council that this is the only commission that relies on a ward system of appointment.
Okay, great. Are there any questions regarding the ordinance? Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Great, thank you. All ordinances introduced this evening will be considered at our next regularly scheduled business meeting.
Can I have the privilege of having a comment to that?
Sure,
Mr. Short?
sure.
So I am the current commissioner, or the current city council member on that commission. And there was the conversation in one of our meetings of recruiting new members and the difficulty they've had over the years. I've been there for 6 months now, or a little bit more than that. So, I have not seen that in particular, but I think the idea is to open it up so that all interested individuals from across the city might be offered a slot and approved by the council to be on the commission, rather than trying to find the right pieces at the right time. So I think that'll just help the commission be strong.
Thank you. I understand there have been several quorum issues, too. Right? Great, thank you. Number 7, A, is to consider introducing an ordinance appropriating a portion of the Parks and Recreational funds in the general fund in the amount of $461 to transfer to the equipment fund to cover the excess cost of vehicular accessories. Mr. Hamp.
Yes, sir. Mayor Short and members of council, in the current fiscal year, the Parks and Recreation Department have purchased a pickup truck equipped with a snowplow and a mule, and both of those purchases were under what we anticipated and had budgeted. As we finalized the equipping of the 2 vehicles, we had a very modest overrun of $461. Because the money was budgeted in the general fund and ultimately the purchases were made out of the fleet fund, it's a somewhat clumsy but necessary administrative step to appropriate sufficient funds to cover the actual cost for the vehicles and accessories.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions? Is there a motion to introduce?
I'll make the motion.
Great, thank you. Item 7B is to consider introducing an ordinance appropriating an Adult Education and Family Literacy Act federal grant in the amount of $42,278 to to the school funds to be used to operate the regional adult ABE, GED, ESOL, and citizenship classes. Mr. Hamp.
These are federal pass-through funds.
Thank you. Is there a motion, any questions? Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Thank you. 7C is an ordinance appropriating integrated English literacy and civic education federal grant in the amount of $79.19 to the school funds to be used to operate the regional adult ESOL and citizenship classes. Mr. Hamp.
These are pass-through funds, and I might add that for the remaining school appropriations, these are either grant, state, or federal funds, and so my ability to clarify or explain is going to be essentially limited to that, so
Okay.
feel free to speed through.
Okay. Can we do them, do we still have to do them all individually?
Yes.
Okay. So we're on 7C. Any questions? Is there a motion to introduce?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. 7D is to introduce an ordinance appropriating Title I, Part A federal grant in the amount of $75,000 to the school funds for salaries at Winona and William Perry Elementary. Any questions? Is there a motion to introduce?
So,
Okay. Dr. Hofstadter. 7E is to consider introducing an ordinance appropriating a Title II, Part A federal grant in the amount of $17,000 to the school funds for salary expenses. Mr. Hamp. Oh, never mind. Are there any questions regarding that? Is there a motion to introduce the ordinance?
So moved.
Thank you. 7F is to consider introducing an ordinance and appropriating a plugged-in Virginia grant in the amount of $33,392 to the school funds to be used to operate the regional adult education and training classes. Any questions? Is there a motion to introduce?
So be it.
Thank you. 7G is to consider an ordinance appropriating a Title IV Part A student support and academic enrichment grant in the amount of $12,575 to the school funds for support, staff stipends, and staff development. Any questions? Is there a motion to introduce?
I will make that motion.
Great, thank you. All right, moves us to number 8, communication, correspondence, and calendar.
So this Wednesday at 2 o'clock at 110 North Wayne Avenue is the official opening ribbon cutting for the Blue Ridge Community College online outpost and co-location site for our Go Virginia grant opportunity. So that's an exciting accomplishment. We look forward to celebrating that and recognizing that achievement. So certainly you're welcome to attend. Additionally, Monday, March 18th at 9 o'clock, we'll have a scheduled budget work session, at which time the city manager's recommended budget will be presented.
So one will have a balloon drop, one maybe not as much. Okay, well, great.
We'll see.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Number 9 is citizen comment period.
Yes, sir. Mr. William Kirkendall.
Mr. Kirkendall, if you wouldn't mind stating your name, address, and then we've got the little stoplight here on the podium. Red is greens go and red stop.
I know the drill.
Okay.
Bill Kirkendall, 109 Holland Circle, Waynesboro. I just wanted to take a minute to just say thank you to City Council and to the city workers for the great job they did this year with snow removal, debris removal, leaves, you name it, they had it, and they stood up to the test. Please pass that on. I really appreciate the job that they did this year. And I'll tell you another thing. One of the best investments you guys ever made was that pre-treatment truck that you put out there, because that does a heck of a job, and it really makes it possible for city workers to not spend all their time on the major highways, and they can get out into the districts and stuff. Our snow removal was fantastic this year.
That's great to hear.
So I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to you and to just pass that along to the city workers, because they were outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
All right. And
We're good.
we're good. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
All right, you're adjourned.